I saw this article over the weekend. It was an Axios article, and the headline grabbed me quickly. And it said, "The Decline of the Trades." And I went, ugh, this is a real problem. This is an actual economic problem. However, inside this problem, the decline of the trades is a massive, massive opportunity. All right, let's break it down. So the big picture problem is that older workers in the trades are retiring, and there's just not enough people filling in the holes, right? They're opting out, and there's nobody to take their place. Now, quick snapshot as to why this exists, okay? And by the way, quick setup, you're talking about construction workers, plumbers, electricians, beyond. Just think about all those trades. So here's what's happened for decades and decades and decades in this country. Higher ed has gotten in bed with politicians, and they've created a marketing message that has benefits for higher ed and for politicians getting reelected, and they've created a marketing message that began really in the 70s, and this was the message. If you want to be successful, go get a college degree. If you want to be a loser, go get yourself a trade job. That really was the message. And there's actually a poster that was mass distributed hanging in public high school guidance counselor or career counselors' offices. My friend Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs first made me aware of it, showed me a picture of it that he saw over the shoulder. There it is. Look at that right there. Now, I mean, just look at that. For those of you that aren't watching this on YouTube, for my podcast audience, listen, it says work smart, not hard. And on the work smart, it's got this guy holding a diploma in his shiny graduate robe, or whatever they call that stupid thing with that board on his head. And it says, not hard. It's got the poor guy in the overalls with a wrench that could kill an elephant. Thing's got to weigh 100 pounds. And he looks miserable, while the other guy looks like he's trying out for a gum commercial. Ding! He's got that smile. You know what I'm talking about? All right. So for decades, this has been the message. So, of course, young people aren't filling in the holes of all the retiring trade workers because their mom and dad and their mom and dad before them, so their grandparents and their parents have all been fed the same message, and thus they've poo-pooed working in the trades. It's a subpar choice. Therefore, I don't want Johnny or Susie to make a subpar choice, so we push them to college because it's about status, not success. Well, this gap is expected to widen. Let's give you one example. The construction industry, and we have a video on this on my YouTube page about carpenters specifically. So you go check it out. But the construction industry faces a gap of 500,000 workers. The application rate for technical jobs like plumber and electrician dropped by a whopping 49% between 2020 and 2022. So this is a recent development for this big of a gap. So here's where we stand. This is a direct quote from Anthony Carnival, director of the Georgetown University Center on Education and Workforce. And I think this is a great quote. He says, because we've deindustrialized the second half of the 20th century, education was all about the 40-year degree. It wasn't about learning a trade. It was go get a degree, then get a job. Versus prior to that, it was like, hey, I mean, if you go back to the beginning of this country, it was the apprenticeship model. If your dad was a blacksmith, you became a blacksmith. If your dad was a silversmith, or if your dad didn't have that, then you go work for somebody and you lived over top their house. So as a result, the trades were passed along. Not anymore. Here's the direct quote from Carnival. We have a K through 12 system that does create better education and more high school graduates, but doesn't do any job training. Now, see, I don't think he meant that the way that it came across, but he may not be happy with me interpreting his quote, but let me go back in and break that quote down. We have a K through 12 system that does create better education. Okay. And more high school graduates. But doesn't do any job training. So let me reinterpret that for you. We have a K through 12 system that is teaching kids a bunch of things they'll never remember. And we're cranking out high school grads, otherwise known as candidates for higher education. But doesn't do any job training. He's right. Oh no, we don't train kids how to work in high school. Not across the board, we don't. What do we train them for? Well, we train them to get a standardized test score to keep the teachers and the principals and the local and state politicians' jobs. And by the way, let me just point out, while I'm stepping on toes, it's not the teachers and the principals' fault. The system is dictated to them. These are the men and women that have been hamstrung. They've been trained to educate, and yet they aren't allowed to actually educate. They can't educate because of all the garbage that's become big business. You got billions of dollars in the standardized testing industry. And I've talked to teachers in this country, and they've told me point blank, Ken, the irony of it all, the people who are writing these standardized tests that we have to teach to in public schools aren't even educators. But see, we got politicians who've been lobbied, and they're lining their pockets. And big business has said, this is the way we leave no child behind. You remember that? That's what I think of leave no child behind. It's time we wake up, folks. It's time we wake up. We have a massive economic problem. Let me bring it back to the headline and back to the start of this conversation, is that we have systemized education as the way to success. And as a result, we are slowly strangling the trades. And the trades, my friends, they're the backbone of the American economy. Let me point you to the pandemic of 2020. When everybody else was being sent home, the trades were booming. How's that reno going without the trades? How's that summer going to be when you don't have enough HVAC workers to fix your system? Parents, wake up. Some of you right now that are in white-collar jobs because you were pressured to get into these white-collar jobs, it's time for you to wake up and go, you know what? I can't stand working in a cube. I want to be outside, dirt under my fingernails, fixing something, building something, making something that makes the world a better place. And I got to tell you something. There is no more honor in a white-collar corner office job than there is the guy who turns the wrench to fixes the catalytic converter, whatever the crap that is. I don't even know what it is, but I know that there is no difference in honor. And it's time, parents and adults, we wake up and go, wait a second. Some of us were built to be inside of a studio and paint all day long. Others were built to talk on a microphone all day long. But thank God there was a whole lot of us that were built to fix stuff, make stuff, all that other kind of stuff. I'd be worthless around my house if it weren't for tradesmen. So why do we put so much value on these tradespeople when we need them, but we devalue them when our kids are open to maybe doing the same work that they do? Woo! Woo! I'm fired up today. I'm just telling you, there's a disconnect. Why are you ashamed of your kid being the one that my wife is happy to see when my AC goes out? Why are you ashamed of that? I'm going to leave it there. Food for thought.